貴様の拳などかほどにも効かんわい。お前はもう死んでいる。何？もうは匠でギゼブ。
I'm the good guy. Waru was nerfed. I am the good guy! I might be the bad guy. If you watched my Goal Ring video, you would see an opponent playing a Waru deck that was out of the box at the time, looping lane blocking with Grand Endeavor to push for the win. This was non-standard for Waru pre-nerf, but now that we are in a post-expansion world with Waru nerfed, I think it might actually be the best strategy to pursue with a weakened Waru. 2 Isatoks in opposing lanes can act as a persistent celebration day, giving us tons of lane blockage to thwart our opponents. So the core of the deck is slowing down our opponent to win with awkward lane pushes or Grand Endeavor. We are running both the rare and regular Grand Endeavor, and ultimately if they are removing our Endeavors, we're hoping that we can lock them out of turns long enough to cycle through our Endeavors anyway. So we run lots of card draw to try to enable that. Ortis Attorney feels like the best card in the deck, drawing tons of cards to try to enable our game plan. Conjuring Seal isn't as strong as the Sigismar version, but can at least help us cycle through our deck in the event our Grand Endeavors are answered. In addition to the Endeavors, we need to keep our Isatoks around to stop our slower opponent's advances. In addition to the new Hypothermia and a classic Sandman, our unique Night Warden can potentially sleep from reserve. If we're not blocking with Isatok, we need to block with characters. Monolith Runescribe may look like a bad Ortis Night Warden, but in Waru, it's really a perfect curve filler for putting non-sleepy power on the board. Really, we wish this Ortis Night Warden was an old version of Monolith Archivist. We don't care much about the Defender, but because we're forced to put it to sleep now, the Night Warden is just better in Waru. When we're not blocking, we're interacting. The most important thing to call out here is a full 3 of Sticky Note Seals. One of the ways we lose is opposing Grand Endeavors, and so having answers to those in the deck and available to draw is critical. Finally, 3 versions of Monolith Legate fill out our favorite bureaucrat, interacting with our opponent's reserve to try to get rid of dangerous uniques that can stop us. And our uniques can answer permanents like Grand Endeavor or act as additional powerful copies of sleep effects. That's the deck, but if you want to know how to beat this deck, stick around for after the games. Okay, up against Subhash. Here, Ortis Spy is great against Subhash, especially, even like when we're second, they have to put something in the reserve and we can snipe it before they can play it. We are starting out first, but we want to keep all the spies and try to take advantage of those. Now, outside of that, it's probably just draw a lot of cards with Ortis Attorney. It's one of the better cards in the deck, and it'll match up tied against a Brassbug token. So this is a pretty easy Spy Attorney keep. They open up with a unique Ada Lovelace. It doesn't seem to do anything extra here. It can discount, but it's mostly a 4-1 from reserve since its effect is based on it being played from hand. So we don't have a spy target this turn, so we'll just play Ortis Attorney to sleep. Doesn't really matter which lane. We're just trying to draw the card. Here, Sticky Notes is good versus Brassbug Hive, and really nothing else. But we have other Sticky Notes in the deck, and we have other plans against Brassbug Hive just by stalling things out, so I don't need to keep this. Brassbug Hive isn't one of the core scary things that this deck has to worry about. We're more worried about things like Grand Endeavor or looping Small Step somehow. They do create another unique in their reserve. Now, this one gets its benefit if it has a fleeting character. I don't want to use my spy on it now. I'd rather play 2 2-drops, especially since there's a chance that they don't play this turn, in order to set up a fleeting and then exhausted resupply next turn. And then we can nab it with the spy plus a 2-drop on that turn in order to stop the exhausted resupply. However, they do go ahead and play this, which makes me realize that I did not think about how this card works. When played from reserve, it itself is a fleeting character, so it's going to exhausted resupply. Nevertheless, that's fine. We will go ahead and play the Runescribe here, which will block them for advancing. It'll mean that we don't draw a card with this Ortis Attorney, but I'd rather take a lane and stop a lane than draw a card. And overall, we're drawing with the left one. They're not advancing this turn. It's a good turn for us. Here, we want to keep the Spy, like the card draw. Isatok and Grand Endeavor are going to be part of our mid-game plan, and so is Celebration Day, but I think the Celebration Day is the furthest away, and we can go with less copies of those, so we'll put the Celebration Day back. They play a Lord Kelvin to reserve, and then play it directly to the board, which will exhaust our Ortis Attorney. We still have a 2 and a 3 drop this turn, so we can use that just with our power plays with the Rune Scribe plus a Baba Yaga to both block them and advance ourselves and draw a card, but we're also blocking them on the right and drawing. Overall feels super solid. Now we are overflowing in reserve, but with that we'll just get rid of the Baba Yaga and keep the Ortis Attorney. That way we have a 3 power to fight in this grass while this is an important lane. Now here, this is our 6 mana turn, which means we are likely going to be wanting to play one of Endeavor or Isatok. It's possible that they also Grassbug Hive this turn. And if they do, I think I'd be fine. I'll know immediately because they won't make a Brass Bug. In which case, I'm happy making a Endeavor play to trade lanes with them so that we have our Endeavor pushing forward and then we can start doing Isatok next turn. The other options that we would have would be to start with a character like Baba Yaga and then use a Geyser to bounce that hub. And just doing an Isatok to open means that they can just play like Brassbug Hive characters in that lane and advance, and that's a fine play. I don't love the 2-drop Geyser play because if they're not doing Brassbug Hive this turn, which is what's going to happen most of the time, I'm not developing my main game plan of Endeavor or Isatok. So I'll put back the Geyser with that in mind, thinking that we already have multiple methods of advancing our own game plan in hand, and those would beat a Hive, and in general are going to put our opponent in a big time crunch with the Endeavor already coming out. There often is not great removal in Subhash for 6+ drops, since a lot of them just run Keylon Burst. And they don't make a bug, which means they are probably playing Hive this turn. So we can just play our Grand Endeavor. They play the Bug Hive. We should advance 1 this turn. And we'll go to the next round. Now here, still love the Spies. The Sandman is going to put our Isatoks to sleep and let us play our Isatok game plan longer. We really have everything we need, so we can actually put back the Baba Yaga. We have so many cards in hand. That's not what we're looking for right now. They make a bug on the right. And they make the Flutter of Moths. We'll go ahead and, the only way that we could advance over this would be by playing one of our Ortis Spies, which, we don't need to do that yet. We'll get our Isatoks rolling and just play this in left lane, lose left lane, but really we're trading 1 for 1 again with these bugs versus the Grand Endeavor. But we're about to stop them from advancing ever again. Here, put back the Legate. We have plenty of sabotage with the Spies in hand. We can open with a 2-drop. I'll do the one that will potentially be giving us card draw and the Ortis Attorney. Our turn is going to be planned on being a Attorney plus an Isatok, which will let us see a few more cards, block things from advancing. Because this Isatok won't be asleep, it'll go to reserve at the end of the turn, and the Grand Endeavor will still be allowed to advance on our next afternoon. Here, love the Spies. We can go ahead and put back a Rune Scribe, though it may have made more sense to put back a Spy. I don't see us spying 3 times this game, and the 2 mana may come into play. But the beautiful picture of having 3 Spies, 2 Sandman in hand is too difficult to pass up. So we put back the Spy. Let's see what they do. Now, we can do 3 + 6 with this Legate plus the Isatok. And this will eventually get rid of the Brassbug Hive, so I like playing this Legate for that reason. And this also leaves us open the play of, maybe double spying or sandmanning or something this turn, but it's probably going to be an Isatok turn just once more. Yeah, they're way out of power for us, so it's just going to be Isatok. We block them. With this Legate, we can go ahead and hit the Mechanical Training, which it could be anything. Power we're not as afraid of. And now we're one turn away. We've got the Grand Endeavor in play. We can go ahead and start pushing this turn. So we can open with a spy on their whatever's most powerful in their reserve. To me, that's the Foundry Engineer, just because it can be potentially cheaper, so to speak, by discounting something. So we hit the Foundry Engineer, see what they play. We'll plan on spying this with the next thing if they didn't play it themselves, which is just a Brass Bug Hive. This is the turn that will just go for the kill, even though the Grand Endeavor will be winning next turn anyway. But this makes it so that if they did have something to try to remove this, we're pushing for the throat this turn. And yeah, Subhash crushed, Dreams crushed. We might be the bad guy. Okay, up against Sigismar. This is not like our Akesha tower decks. We don't need to keep Celebration Day in the opener. I do, however, like the prospect. I mean, I love Attorney. I'm going to keep this in most hands so that we can start drawing cards. Sticky Notes can be important against like Grand Endeavor, but I'd rather do a potential turn 2 Geyser, whatever they play, or Geyser a token, into starting some Isatok chains here to slow the Sigismar advance as much as possible. So we'll put back Celebration Day, Spy, Sticky Note Seals. We are running 3 Sticky Note Seals because we know that in some situations it's very important, but that also means that we have redundancy to be able to draw them later and not be forced to keep them in our opener when we see them. We play the Attorney on the left here, though, so that next turn it will contest the automatic recruit lane, and they're playing Field Reinforcements, which lets them draw some cards. They do play a Foundry mechanic out, which means it's either a misplay or they're planning on playing a permanent next turn. The main permanent that would make sense is Monolith or is Bastion at 5 mana. Most Sigismar decks don't necessarily play both Monolith and Grand Endeavor. So, what would be great here is, they drop the Monolith. It means that Endeavor's not going to be a huge threat for us. We're a better deck versus the Monolith versions than we are versus the Grand Endeavor versions. But this just leads to a fantastic Geyser opportunity, which will, they're not advancing this turn. They're losing a lot of tempo. We are advancing. We don't get the card draw, but next turn we can start potentially playing Isatok. We put back a Sandman here rather than a Hippo. It's possible that Hippo was something that we could have put back, Hypothermia, but we have the Attorney, and just chaining Hypothermias can really slow them down and buy us time to hit our Endeavor and all those game plans. And Sandman only does 1 sleep. The other option, of course, is Valimon, but there's a real chance that this turn I do an Attorney Valimon thing so that I do see a little bit deeper. I go ahead and clear out my reserve from the Spy while I can, and we pretty much guaranteed block a lane with Valimon anyway, which is the whole purpose of Isatok. So we'll open with Attorney on left. They play the Bastion again, and we'll go ahead and just counter the advance here and move forward. All right, now here we have 3 Hippos. We now have our 2 Isatoks and a Grand Endeavor. We don't need all 3 Hypothermias, and we can absolutely start our primary game plan. We'll definitely be playing a Grand Endeavor this turn. They spy the Valimon, which is one of the things that we were worried about last time. And we can potentially also do a Hypothermia depending on what they do. We could stop the advance with this, but we're ahead right now, and we might as well just keep those for Isatox. Celebration Day fits the rest of our plan. The main purpose of Baba here is to draw into Celebration Days or Isatox, so we can put back the Baba Yaga. We already have everything that we need. And we'll open up with Isatok on right so that the lane where they have a character starting is blocked. Put back Night Warden here, especially this is a turn where we can potentially Baba plus Isatok. And Night Warden is not super great when what we're just trying to do is chain Isatox. They play a unique Quetzalcoatl, which is going to be making recruits all over. That's fine by us. We'll open with a Baba on the right, which is currently a competable lane. And because of the monolith, they tie that up. Unfortunately, a Legate is going to be hitting our Isatok here. So that, potentially gives us like do we want to Hypothermia here to leave this Isatok around? But if we do that, they'll just Hypothermia the Legate, and it doesn't really save us anything. It'll force us to lose this lane. So we'll accept an Isatok loss. We have Celebration Day anyway. And this will stop any advancement this turn, and we'll start clawing back with the Grand Endeavor. Here, Spy is probably the best out of these. Attorney can draw us cards if we start getting pinched. So we'll put back the Rune Scribe, though there's an argument for keeping the Rune Scribe because it would let us do 2-drop, 2-drop. But we don't have this talk this turn. And so if we wanted to do like 2-drop Celebration Day, we have the 2-drop to do that. So there's not really a strong reason to keep this Rune Scribe. But we'll open with Spy on the gate so that this talk does get protected. And this will be a turn, because we don't have a double Isatok, that we're likely just going to be pushing for power on the left lane to try to win. They build up here. We can play Baba on left. And now in this position, it does feel like, hey, maybe we should have kept the Rune Scribe to be able to compete over here. But luckily they make the mistake of putting the Spy on the right, which is not actually an active lane. And Ortis Attorney will draw us a card, while Endeavor basically forces us to the win. Now, even with our messed up Rune Scribe and their Ortis Attorney, we'd basically be back one lane, but with 2 celebration dates now in hand, that would push us up 2 lanes. And this is basically a guaranteed kill. So we got a little lucky with the misplays there, but the hand would force it, and the opponent scoops, ending that one. Yeah, GG. Okay, up against Fen. Now, here, don't like Sticky Note Seals against Fen. It's a little early for Sandman. I do like Sabotage against them, so I like keeping a Spy in the Legate, which leaves us with Baba Spy Legate. There's a world where we keep 2 Babas over one of these 2. We're going to play a little bit more resource attacky. With their sending us on left, we'll just play Baba right. We could sleep this, but I like to play this on a turn where we can maybe sleep one of our own bureaucrats, and we can also use the sabotage effect, which neither of those are in play this turn. Here, I don't really want the 3-mana Legate. We have enough Sabotage at this point, so I'll keep that over ditching the Celebration Day, which I think is the other weakest card in hand. I don't expect many permanents out of Fen, so we put that back. We can go ahead and open with a Spy on the Cernunnos to prevent that from being replayed. We put back a Legate there. Now, that was potentially a little greedy. Like I do like the Sabotage against Fen, as I said, and I don't know that we should prioritize the Celebration Day over potentially having a like double Sabotage journey starting this turn, or really starting to loop those to threaten their resources. And I think that was really greedy. So hindsight, I would have put back the Celebration Day, but we did keep it. They open with Cernunnos, which we can challenge with the Yaga from our reserve, leaving up a potential 3-mana play, or the Legate, depending on what sounds best. And they interestingly actually Cloth Cocoon this Baba Yaga, which feels good for us. 1 Cloth Cocoon down, opening up our Grand Endeavor lines, and this Baba Yaga will still block them, though it won't allow us to advance ourselves. Put back a Sandman. We don't need 2. We're not thrilled about 2, and especially since the Legate itself sleeps, and this Grand Endeavor can go ahead and come out to start pushing our primary game plan. We've already gotten rid of 1 Cloth Cocoon, and they take the opportunity to double advance, but we're starting our game plan, and we do have the Celebration Day that we kept in hand, as well as we can start cashing out these Isotox. Now, here, I think the play is to get rid of the Geyser, but we get rid of the Spy, which prevents us from, potentially getting rid of some problematic things in the reserve, including this. Well, they'll probably open up with the card draw, but they're going to be resupplying a lot, and targeting some of the things that are more problematic would be good. But Geyser also can potentially ramp us to more mana, so we can start double spelling even with our big things, which is the line of thinking that we took. Here, we will start just slowing them down with our Isotox, especially since we have some sleep in hand and the Endeavor out. Seeing this Hatter come down, should highlight the error of our ways to getting rid of that Spy. Now here, Geyser, this is an 8-mana turn, so this can potentially be a double Geyser turn to get that ramp we talked about. And again, we don't love Sticky Note Seals versus a Fen. But going first, we don't actually want to Geyser the sleeping Aloe Vera, especially with this still available. So instead, we can take a 2-drop, 2-drop, and then maybe have Geyser available to us. So we'll start with building power on the left by putting Geyser there, or Baba Yaga there. Continue to build on left with our things that actually add power to the board from the Spy. And we're eyeing this Cloth Cocoon at this point, which we would really rather keep the Grand Endeavor. And because of that, it feels like we kind of want to bait out the Cocoon on the Isotox. It's easier for us to win with this Grand Endeavor than it is without it. So we play the Legate on the right, which serves both the purpose of keeping Isotox around for another round, threatens a Sabotage on the Cloth Cocoon, and also, if they're going to use the Cloth Cocoon either way, tries to bait it on the Isotox. However, they do hit the Grand Endeavor, and we're left trying to look for our win condition yet again. Here, Sandman can do our sleep duty, and without a Grand Endeavor, we also may need this power to start pushing. So we'll put back the Hippo instead. Hippo is also bad versus Aloe Vera. Opponent opens with Anansi, which, with what they have out right now, we can basically double Geyser if they continue playing that, and if they play it a third time, they'll tie here, which will be fine by us. It'll basically just be a double ramp turn for us when we go to the next one. But they do not play the third Anansi. Instead, they ramp out to Lyra Festival, which maybe we should be worried about permanents against Fen. If we had those sticky note seals, this would be a lot less bad of a position, but we've managed 2 of our sticky note seals. We just played our 2 geysers. We're actually in a tough spot if they can set this up. So, we're getting rid of their small step giant leap, but that's no longer how we lose. It's probably Festival. That being said, we try to play to our out switches by dodging Festival losses. So we'll start slowing them down with Isatalk, play our Grand Endeavor so we can start moving forward, and hope that we dodge, both the anchor, not dodge, and the sleep, kind of going forward. However, they open with a sleep effect, which is never a good sign, and they play the anchored aloe vera. We lose the game, and makes us more thoughtful about how to handle these alternate win conditions in future games. That's the deck, and those are the games. A lot of people seem to be frustrated by these type of lists, so let's actually talk about how to beat this deck in case you are one of those people. First of all, you should advance aggressively. This is not great at defending in the early rounds, and a lot of the play depends on being able to have a little bit of cushion room as you get to the later game. If you're double advancing in the first 2 to 3 turns, this deck won't be able to close out unless it gets one of its more insane draws, and you can't do some of the other things, like removing our big threats. We have limited ways to actually push for a win, so getting rid of Grand Endeavor makes it so that we have to potentially be drawing deep throughout our deck in order to be able to even push through. And hitting an Isatalk the turn that it comes down can open up a clear lane for you to push through 1 or 2 lane victories that we otherwise thought we could stop, while we just use 6 mana to play it down. Thirdly, sabotage the Isatalks. A good Toxic Waru player will try to time it so some of those are waking up in a way that they're going to our reserve when we go first. But ultimately, if we're playing 2 Isatalks and cycling them, we can't afford to always be starting our turn with an Isatalk play, which means you have opportunities to sabotage those and get rid of them for a long time. All of those are things that you can do with any deck that you play. But also, you have the option in other decks to maybe push through a win with alternate means. Lyre Festival, your own Grand Endeavor, Small Step Giant Leap, all of these can help push through and get victories quicker than the Toxic Waru deck can do it. Anyways, thank you for watching the video, and until next time, I'm Elio. Thank you.